So thanks for having me today. I'm excited. I want to talk about this election and all the fun things that we're working on.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Cohen. We are honored to have you here. We are so pleased. And I personally, what I did is I researched the facts
Yep.
because the public knows that I was a cheap opponent, and but you made me a believer, and it was strictly because of the facts.
Yep.
And some people said, "Well, I wonder what Malia said to Diane to make her change her mind." We never talked.
We didn't.
I just researched the facts, and I said we need the Hunters Point, particularly in District 10, is developing at such a rate that we need someone that can take care of us, protect us, get more of us working, get more of us healthy, and keep more of us safe. And you've been off to a phenomenal start, but I know the next 4 years are going to be absolutely fantastic and very productive and beneficial to us. The reason being is because you have 4 years of experience. Our district is growing too rapidly for a trainee.
True.
So let me ask you this. What is the biggest issue you see facing District 10 right now?
Sure. So, I think that when I think about the challenges that are facing all of San Francisco, we talk about it in a very high level context, like housing. Housing is absolutely critical, but how it's very unique when it's in the Bayview community, and it's unique because of two ways. First of all, when we're talking about housing, we're talking about market rate housing and below market rate housing, and on the other hand, we also have public housing. So when we think about the African American community, the Latino, the Samoan community, those communities that are living in public housing in particular, they have a certain level of complexity because it's a housing authority property, and that's federal government. So I've been very, very particular in making sure that the rebuild for public housing, one, that it happens, and two, that it happens with zero displacement. Now, we've learned from experiences from the past with the redevelopment agency how it has decimated particularly the African American community. So when we're rethinking about housing, we need to think about how do we build housing with people on site, and to mitigate and eliminate that need or that fear that exists of people being displaced. So when we have rebuilt the first phase of Hunter's View, been zero displacement, and you know what also is important to know? 65% local hire rate. That means the folks that are living in Hunters View were also working on that development project and have gone on to work on that project into phase 2. So
Great.
we've got a handful of brand new units, and we all know that the housing and public housing is decrepit and deteriorating.
Right. I grew up in Hunters View.
Okay.
It was
Isn't
called West Point.
Still
and I
is.
am so okay, right. I am so delighted to hear that it's 60%. I was wondering, and you're exactly right. Based on the research I've done, and because I'm a real estate broker
Yeah.
and community real estate professional, I'm so glad that you're on top of it. I'm so glad. It is my pleasure to have you on the show. Again, we're welcoming you to Best Candidate Night. We cannot get all of the best candidates, but we can all of the best candidates in the various districts for supervisor. And of course, unfortunately, because I am a little biased, because our district is the largest, is growing rapidly, and we need a guardian, a custodian, we need a protector, and so we need you for another 4 years. Now, I'd like to ask you another question, if I may. Okay. Why did you decide to run again for
Well,
supervisor of District 10?
So, for your audience at home, 4 years ago I ran, and Diane Wesley Smith was one of the candidates that we were competed against each other.
Not much, I was.
But nonetheless, there were a total of 22 candidates in the race. And I learned some lessons from that. One was that it's important to be a bridge builder. And you talked about the shift that's happening in our community. You need someone that is able to work outside of their comfort zone and
Yes.
work cross-culturally, to work with the different cultures and understand and connect with those needs. Now, the last 4 years have been about delivering, and I've delivered in a very big way on some very big projects. We have been successful in decreasing the unemployment rate, specifically in the Bayview community and in Visitation Valley neighborhoods. We have been able to work on rebuilding not just Hunters View and West Point, but also Alice Griffith. And so the next 4 years is we've got to get Sunnydale rebuilt. We've got to get Petro Hill rebuilt.
Double Rock.
Absolutely. Alice Griffith, Double Rock,
right.
also known as Double Rock.
Right.
We're going to be breaking ground on Double Rock this year. So I was able to move that to the forefront of the list. But also we need a grocery store in the Bayview community.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that, because that was one of my questions.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Yeah. So we're moving in that direction. The momentum is carrying us forward, and I don't think that it's what we need is a steady hand and strong leadership, and I've demonstrated that in the last 4 years. And to be quite frank, I love this. This is my life. This is my energy. This is everything for me. So it is a privilege to be able to serve San Francisco, but also to serve in the capacity of doing what I love for the people that I love.
Yes.
I mean, there's no replacing it. So another 4 years would be not only personally gratifying, but also beneficial for our city, for our district, as we continue to transition from a place of being stagnant,
yes,
into prosperity.
Yes, yeah, and into prosperity, because prosperity is like literally right around the corner, and it's actually on the block.
And I'm convinced that there is enough prosperity in San Francisco that we all can prosper.
Yes.
So it's not just the tech workers.
Yes.
It's not just one ethnic community over another.
Yes.
But there are tangible examples of African American, Bayview businesses, visitation businesses, Asian contractors, people that are collectively able to work on major projects like the Hunters Point Shipyard project, like the wastewater treatment project, like the Slage Lock Development project. I mean, those are just really big projects that have been enough to uplift the entire community, not leaving anyone behind.
And that's, I am so glad to hear you say that again, because I have a personal concern that our community is unified, and unity in the community, and bridging it between making a bridge or bridging all the races together is something that you are uniquely qualified to do. You're the best candidate for a supervisor in District 10. You have been, and you are certainly more than worthy of re-election. I want to encourage everyone to definitely vote. If you have not already, like many of us have, but if you have not already, vote for Malia Cohen and Supervisor Cohen. And with that being said, I'd like to thank you for appearing on the show.
Thank you for
and do you have any final comments?
Yes, thank you for having me. I would just to the viewers just want to say thank you for allowing me an opportunity to serve you in the last 4 years, and then moving forward, the next 4 years are going to be a complete commitment from me to keep District 10 residents working, to keep people healthy and keep them safe, all while making sure that this city is affordable for everyone and that no one gets left behind. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we have David Chu.
Okay.
It was a pleasure, and I'll see you in the community. Yes. We have the Board of Supervisors President David Chu. Put his picture up. Coming in now. Hello,
hey there, how are
President
you?
Chu.
How's it going?
It's going very well. How's it going with you?
It's going great, and I really want to appreciate you bringing me onto the show.
Absolutely. You know, I could not resist, because I was looking for the best candidates in each category.
I'm honored.
And so am I, because I saw you come out to our community and respect us. I saw you respect various cultures. I've seen your dignity and your integrity and your respect.
Thank you so much.
And that means a lot to us, because that means you can get the job done, because you communicate with all of us. And so with that being said, we welcome again President David Chu, Board of Supervisors President, actually, and he's a candidate for Assemblyman of California.
That's right.
And so would you have an opening remark before I start asking you some questions?
Sure. Well, as you and I have talked about before, I came to the city almost 20 years ago, worked as a civil rights attorney and also as a criminal prosecutor. And 6 years ago, in 2008, I ran for the Board of Supervisors because at that time, City Hall was much more dysfunctional than we would have wanted it to be. And over the past 6 years, I have worked hard to build consensus among the diversity of San Francisco to really deliver results for San Franciscans. 6 years ago, our city, we were in the Great Recession, double-digit unemployment, tens of thousands of folks out of work. And I worked with 2 mayors and many members of the Board of Supervisors, including the person who was just on the show, Supervisor Malia Cohen, to help create 70,000 jobs, really reflecting the diversity of industries. And I should note that 2/3 of these jobs were not in technology and innovation. They were in our small business sectors, they were in manufacturing, they're in construction, they're in our small business quarters. 6 years ago, we had massive budget deficits, and I worked to propose budget reform measures that has led us today to the largest and healthiest and most stable budget that our city has had. We have the highest credit rating our city has had. 6 years ago, we weren't building any housing whatsoever, and over the past 6 years, we've moved a pipeline of about 50,000 units of new housing at all levels of affordability, including rebuilding public housing and building low-income affordable housing. And we're moving San Francisco forward, and I would be honored to have the opportunity to represent Eastern San Francisco, to go to Sacramento, to make sure that we're delivering from our state capital back to San Francisco.
That's right. I have no doubt that you will be elected our next assemblyman, and that you will work for us, and that you'll be working for us from San Francisco. Now, I like to ask you, what do you see as the biggest issue facing San Francisco right now?
You know, I think the number one issue on the minds of San Franciscans is really our housing affordability crisis. The fact of the matter is the rent is too darn high. Folks are still struggling to make their mortgages, and we have to do more. And I have spent time over the last 6 years, almost every year, I've passed several pieces of legislation to build more affordable housing for seniors and for foster youth and for veterans. To protect tenants, prioritizing victims of Ellis Act evictions in our affordable housing pipeline, providing tenants who are facing evictions with free pro bono legal representation,
Great.
legalizing tens of thousands of in-laws. But I think just as importantly, we have to keep building new housing.
Yes.
And this is why I was honored to work with then Supervisor Sophie Maxwell and now with Supervisor Malia Cohen to move forward the Hunters Point Shipyard project,
Yes.
which will be almost 11,000 units of new housing,
Yes.
including public housing.
Yes.
And it's a bit of a difference with my opponent. He had a different perspective. He voted against that project. He voted against rebuilding the Hunters View public housing project. And
We
have
did
to
not
do better.
know that.
Yeah.
I did hear something about that. You know, I'm just glad you are the people's candidate.
Appreciate that.
Sometimes people don't recognize, they're looking for a certain profile. The people's candidate is the candidate who can get the job done.
At the
It's
end
the
of the
one
day,
has, yeah.
that's what it's about. It's about getting the job done really for the people
That's
as opposed
it.
to certain special interests or constituencies. But it's been important for me to really work with the diversity of San Francisco, folks from all communities, bringing people together to hammer out consensus and really deliver.
That is, that's so important, to bring people together and hammer out a consensus, reach a common goal. May I ask you a second question?
Sure.
Now, when did you first decide to run for public office?
It was about a year before.
Oh, I'm sorry. Why did you decide to run?
Sure. So I first made a decision to run for office about a year before the November 2008 election because, as I mentioned earlier, City Hall really wasn't delivering in the way that we wanted to. We had a mayor and a board of supervisors that fought all the time.
Yes.
And in fact, things were so dysfunctional that those individuals were often completely unable to sit in the same room as each other. And we weren't building housing. We didn't have a stable budget. We were losing jobs. And folks didn't really feel like City Hall was meeting their needs and actually getting things done. And I thought we could do better. And really what I've tried to do over the last 6 years is work within the diversity of our respective communities, really bringing together Latino and African American leaders with Asian and women leaders and LGBT leaders and really hammering out consensus. That's the difficult part of the job. For me, it's the job that really fires me up every morning, gets me excited about what we have to do.
Yes. And I have always been particularly concerned about unification of the Asian community and the Black community. And then I saw something that was awful on the news this morning. And I believe that this level of racism is always from ignorance. But I do see a certain divide in the Black community. Not all of us, 'cause a lot of us know people are people. But then we have those that aren't as educated as others. And so, I mean, we can't give a potluck and bring everyone together.
Yeah.
But having people like yourself representing us, who you said some key things, hammering out a consensus, bringing everyone to the table. Because if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So I would say to anyone of any race who has an issue and particularly feels that it's around another race, that they gather more information, that they participate in the political process, that they attend the Board of Supervisors. If they feel that someone's treating them unfairly, that's what the Board of Supervisors is for. That's how I met you, and I remember when you first became a supervisor. And then when I saw you as the president, I was very pleased. You also visited our church.
I have.
And that just showed respect, you know. I believe respect is very important, and I saw that in you, and that, in my opinion, and the opinion of many, makes you a very good public servant.
Well, I appreciate that. I'll mention that when I was growing up, I was inspired by the civil rights movement and what that struggle meant. And this is why I ended up becoming a lawyer. It's why almost 20 years ago I moved to San Francisco to work for a civil rights organization that had its roots in the 1960s in the African American community. And this is why it's been really important for me to build bridges. A number of years ago, we had some issues in the Bayview involving some tensions between some of our communities.
Yes.
And it's important for me to work with my counterparts in the Board of Supervisors to establish a community ambassador program.
That's what we need, yes.
Made up of the diversity of our community
Yes.
to help patrol our neighborhoods, really work with people from different backgrounds. In fact, today, Supervisor Cohen and I were in Chinatown after this incident that you just mentioned
Wonderful.
to really say that hate and racist speech against any of our communities is an affront against all of our communities.
Yes, it is.
This is why I've spent a lot of time with her in the Bayview to make sure that we're bringing the jobs that we need to make sure we're
Right.
building the housing that we need to make sure we're safe. And I'm honored in this campaign to have the support of the major African American elected officials in San Francisco. So,
Yes, I saw that. It's read like a who's who of blacks. Actually, it read like a who's who cross culturally.
again, for me,
That's what we need.
That's what's most important for me when I've had the opportunity to work with our Attorney General Kamala Harris to really make our communities safer, to work with Sophie Maxwell or Millie Cohen to focus on the Bayview, to work with London Breed
Yes.
in her district, to work with many of our African American Democratic clubs to really move things forward. I very much appreciate the leadership that we all have to exert, not just in our own communities, but across communities. And I also want to say it's been an honor for me to spend time in many of our black churches, because that's not only where the civil rights movement started from, but that's really where the heart and soul of much of our community comes from. Those are the values that inspire us, and
they're
it's
very
been wonderful.
similar. You know, the black culture is very similar to the Asian culture, but those that are disconnected from their own culture, they don't know we have so much in common.
Absolutely.
I mean, hard work, saving money, and when some people came up north, and things changed.
Yeah.
But moving right along, so why are you running for state assembly,
I'm
President
running for the
Chu?
state assembly because it's been an honor to serve for the last 6 years as the president of the Board of Supervisors. But there's so much that our state has not delivered to San Francisco, and we need to do better. For example, we've lost over $100 million a year of resources that our city used to get to build affordable housing. The state of California is ranked 49th out of 50 states when it comes to what we spend per child in the classroom. And whether it's
Would
an
you
Asian
say that?
student-
Would you repeat that, please?
Sure. California is ranked
Next.
49th out of 50 states on what we spend in the classroom in public schools. So whether you are a Latino student, an Asian student, an African American student, or a white student, we need to do better when it comes to our schools.
Absolutely.
Our transit system, frankly, is not where it needs to be. When Muni is late 40% of the time, when we have some of the most dangerous intersections for pedestrians and seniors and cyclists, when car drivers are stuck in congested streets that are full of potholes, we've lost billions of dollars in recent years from the state that used to be invested in our cities.
Yes.
And I want to go to Sacramento and really fight for those dollars, bring them back to our city, to put folks to work, to keep people safe, to keep them moving on our streets, and really help our families move forward. And I think we also need to make sure that the families we've lost in San Francisco, particularly our African American families, we're bringing them back. And that's something that has been a top priority for me as well.
Oh, that is great. And as a real estate broker, I hear from people all the time. I have something on my Facebook right now that says, I want to come back home. I want
Yep,
to come back to San
absolutely.
Francisco. And it's an excellent opportunity when we have a culturally diverse representation to blend the cultures. So we can bring they're all our people, but we
Absolutely.
can bring our particular cultures together. The more they get to know each other, the better it will be for all of us, and the more we can work cohesively.
People don't like to visit great cities because they're all white or all black or all Asian.
Right.
People like to visit great cities because of our diversity, because of our vitality, and frankly, the fact that our African American community has seen its population cut in half since the last census is something that is not a good trend for our city. We've got to do more to make sure that everyone who wants to continue to live in San Francisco has the opportunity to afford to live in our city and to succeed in our city. And that means really focusing on the basics, on our economy, on creating housing, on public safety and families.
Right, and jobs, that's right. Well, Supervisor Chu, President Supervisor Chu.
David, please.
Okay, well, I like President. Well, David, I want to thank you for appearing on the show. This, again, is San Francisco's best candidate night. You are the best candidate. Your track record shows, because I like you, but this is not personal. This is business. It is for the common good, the greater good. And in that regard, you are my favorite candidate. You are the best candidate for a state assemblyman.
I'm truly honored,
and would you like to wrap it up?
You know, I would be honored if the voters of Eastern San Francisco were to be able to support me in the coming days on the November 4th election to be your next assemblyman. We need leadership that has a record of actually delivering for San Francisco to hopefully represent potentially up to the next 12 years in delivering back to our city for affordable housing, for public transit, for our schools, for family, for public safety. And this is something I'm very committed to doing and really bringing folks together and getting things done. So I really appreciate the opportunity to come and be on your show, and thank you for your leadership and what you're doing to educate San Franciscans.
Oh, thank you. Now, David, right before Shaman Walton comes on from the school board, I want to ask...
A great candidate, by the way.
Yes, he is. He's the best candidate, just as you are.
Candidate.
I want to ask you, what can our city's leaders do to help promote a spirit of unity in San Francisco?
Well, I think one of the things that we need to do is stop speaking in divisive language. When you have folks who are campaigning in a campaign that I'm in, basically talking about us versus them and demonizing certain factions of our community, we will succeed. We'll rise or fall based on our ability to all work together. It's not about us versus them, but it's about how we come together as one city. It's easy, for example, to scapegoat the technology community right now, but a few months ago I brought tech leaders into the Bayview, and they committed to mentoring any young boy or girl out of the Bayview community that wanted an internship in our technology community. That's the sort of thing we want.
Right. I grew up with that. That's how a lot of us became professionals. A lot of us that are X number of years old, we had internships. We had doors open for us. It was a level of willingness. So I'm absolutely delighted to hear that for our future generations. You're doing a wonderful job. So we need you in Sacramento.
I appreciate your support.
And then we'll have to get you to the mansion.
No, I just want to keep serving San Francisco and bringing folks together.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so
of course,
much.
Really appreciate it.
Okay, take care.
Thank you.
Right on. All right. So now we have Shaman Walton coming on, and he's another best candidate. Okay. So Shaman,
yes it is.
Shaman Walton. Supervisor Malia Cohen corrected me.
Thank you.
And how quickly I forgot. Shaman, I want to thank you for attending San Francisco Weekly's Best Candidate Night. And we have brought you here because you are one of the best candidates for the school board. And I believe there were 3, but you really stood out. And I read a lot of your information, your background. And so it was a logical decision.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, our pleasure. Now, would you like to make an opening statement before I start asking you some questions?
Definitely. Well, again, my name is Shaman Walton. I'm a candidate for San Francisco Board of Education. I'm running because I care about the success of every child here in San Francisco. And I know that vehicle to success is through the San Francisco Unified School District. I'm going to be working hard to decrease the achievement gap that exists for Latino, African American, Pacific Islanders children with special needs and our foster care youth, as well as bring quality quality schools to every neighborhood and community into San Francisco by making sure that we bring quality programs throughout the district and pass them through equitable. And then last, making sure that with the passage of Prop 30 and local control funding formula resources going into the district, making sure that these dollars go into the classroom, more teachers, more paraprofessionals, so we can do a better job with special needs and inclusion. And
You know, it
classroom
sounds like
size.
this is the first time you've ever said that. You know, we certainly need it. And this was one of the things that is, it's a top priority, just as important as jobs, is who's serving on the school board. Because we have fallen short. I'm a native San Franciscan. I see the product every day. I was fortunate to come from a household that believed in education, and if you didn't get it, then you got it. You know,
That's right.
we grew up in the day some would call it corporal punishment. Back then they called it spare the rod. Now I'd like to ask you, what do you see in education as what do you see as the biggest educational issue in San Francisco, Shaman?
Well, the biggest issue really is the fact that we have a good school district, but we have a population of students that are not achieving. As you know, graduation rates for students in San Francisco went up last year for every demographic except for our black children.
Now, is it truancy an issue?
Truancy is an issue. The elements that children bring to school every day coming from home is an issue. Community concerns are an issue. But at the end of the day, our schools need to make sure that we provide what our children need when they show up for school every day.
So how can we? Malia, as I mentioned, suggested that recommended you, and so of course I did the research and I found out you were one of the best candidates of the three. Now, we're missing money. Board of Supervisors President David Chu spoke about we're not spending enough money per pupil. Can you affect that on the school district as a board member?
Definitely. A lot of things I talk about, for example, bringing vocational programs back into the schools. There are resources that we don't go after in which we can do aggressively, like resources from Department of Transportation, Department of Labor, Environmental Protection Agency, and also making sure that tech companies here do a better job of making sure that resources from the dollars that they earn get into our schools. We have over 1,000 tech companies, just over 100 schools. Just imagine the great job we can do if one or two tech companies each adopted a school.
Now, did you heard? Matter of fact, I'm glad that you mentioned that because Supervisor Chu mentioned that he had spoken with a lot of tech companies. We have, as you know, so many companies. Tech is just one of them. Everyone that's coming absolutely should and must. But they have made a significant number of tech companies have made a commitment to mentor and provide an internship. And that's how many people like myself who grew up in Hunters Point, single family household in poverty, etc. That's how we became professional and that's how we began to live our dreams. It was through the internship program. So when you talk about the internship program, and we also had the vocational program. I tried to become an electrician, but women weren't doing that back then. I wanted to become a plumber, but the fact of what my point is that you are really hitting on the things that we need to remedy this lack of productive citizens coming out of the public school district. Now, why did you decide to run for the school board?
Yeah, most of my adult life, I've really been working with children and trying to connect them to vehicles and opportunities to be successful. And at the end of the day, education is that one thing that is an equalizer that will make sure all of our students have an opportunity to be successful. So I'm running for the Board of Education to make sure that our students, because of my advocacy and because of the fighting that I've done, it's also time to do some fighting at the policy level to make sure that not only at the grassroots level we can connect our students to what they need, but also at the policy level. We need people that look like our kids to make decisions for our children.
Yes, and I'm glad you said that. Well, everything that you're saying, I totally agree with, and then some. I don't think that anyone could differ with anything that you're saying, because you're talking about our future generations. These are our young citizens amongst us, and it's a poor society that does not take care of its own, of its young, and of its most vulnerable population, which is also our seniors. Now, why why do you want to become a board member, a San Francisco school board member?
Well, again, we need somebody who's going to fight for all of our children in San Francisco. Make sure that the children who are doing well have opportunities to continue to grow and be successful, but also make sure that the children that need extra help, extra assistance, get what they need so they can be successful as well.
Okay, and exactly, because some of them, they used to put people on a yellow bus, and the yellow bus was like the retarded bus, but these children really weren't retarded. Some of them were hungry. Some of them had attention span. Some of the teachers could not connect. Many people say that there are many. The teachers should take some sort of cultural sensitivity class, or meet some sort of requirements in terms of cultural sensitivity when they come into the schools and they're dealing with children that look like us. Because they don't know what the dynamics are. I mean, I don't know what some of the dynamics. I can imagine some of them I do know.
Right.
But I know that we can no longer rely on the parent. Where we can, we do. What I hear you saying is it goes past the home. We have to be concerned with what's going on in the home so they can learn effectively.
Well, I definitely think that things do start in the home and that parents play a big role. But our family structure is not just about the parents in the home, but it's really about whoever or whomever the caregiver is.
Right.
Because it's still important that we make sure we help and assist folks in the home play a vital role in their children's education. But in terms of equipping our teachers with all the information that they need to know to be successful in educating all children, we need more resources for that quality technical assistance and that quality capacity building, because that is very, very important to equip our teachers with the knowledge that they need to teach and work with everyone.
And speaking of teaching and working with everyone, the school board meeting, many individuals. How comfortable will you have alliances? Because this is one of the reasons that Supervisor Chu is the best candidate for the state assembly. Supervisor Cohen is the best candidate for District 10 again, so we must reelect her. But we definitely need some fresh blood on the school board. My goodness, the product. So. You are going to work with others. I understand you have a lot of experience working with others, leveraging, bringing diverse groups together, because it's going to take more than, it's just going to take good people to help those that look like us, to help our black children. It's going to take people of all races. And it's an investment for all of us, because all the children belong to all of us, no matter what color.
We have a lot of work to do. And at the end of the day, in order to get it done, we're going to have to be able to work better together and effectively together. Doesn't mean we're going to always agree. Well, one of the things, let me just say this to answer your question. I am actually endorsed by 5 current school board commissioners.
Please share it with us.
Endorsed by Hydra Mendoza, endorsed by Dr. Marase, endorsed by Rachel Norton, endorsed by Jill Wins, and endorsed by Matt Haney. So that is a testament to the fact that we have the ability to work well together, even when we don't always agree. I'm also endorsed by all 11 Board of Supervisors, Mayor Ed Lee, Senator Leno, Assemblymember Tom Amiano, Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom.
So why did they endorse you?
Because we have the ability to get things done, and they know that even though there are times we don't agree, and all of us don't always agree.
We're not going to
but
always
they do
agree.
know that I am going to work hard for our children to succeed, and that's the bottom line, and that's why I'm here today.
Okay, and so in working, you're at the board, and those it's so delightful that you have the support of so many people, because what that says to us, that one of the criteria for a best candidate is someone that already has alliances, that already has support, because no one person can get it done, and we need alliances on various levels. So you have clearly shown that you have alliances on various levels, because at the end of the day, it's going to be about funding and getting our kids in school every day, and some sort of penalty. And I'm speaking now from a position as a grandmother, as a woman with a 46-year-old son, as a 62-year-old woman. And so I'm very, very, all of these children are my children. All people are my people. And I'm very encouraged, because there's no other way other than collaboration. And the fact that you have the ability to work with so many people, because they would not have endorsed you if you didn't have the ability to work with them. I think this speaks volumes of your ability. You're one of the freshest candidates I've seen for the school board that has so much support.
Thank you. Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm currently executive director of Young Community Developers in Bayview Hunters Point. I'm a native of San Francisco, originally from Bayview Hunters Point. I've lived in public housing in West Point, public housing in Potrero Hill, and in the Hayden-Ashbury district. Started elementary school at Cobb Elementary School and also attended El Dorado before going to junior high and high school in Vallejo. I've been back in San Francisco working for over 12 years, and I did run in 2012, and I'm excited about the opportunity to fight for our children, and hopefully on November 4th, I know we'll win and we'll go out there and do it.
Yes, we will. When you win, we win.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Thank
So we will see you soon.
Definitely.
I've already voted for you, by the way.
Thank you so much.
I do absentee ballot so that I can make sure, no matter what I'm doing, I vote.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations. Next school board member,
I'll see you soon.
Shaman Walton.
Shaman.
Shaman. See, I need that correction. Thank you. Now we have Dr. Amy Bacharach coming in, and Dr. Amy Bacharach is a candidate, the best candidate for the College Board.
Thank you.
Welcome to Best Candidate Night
Thank
by
you so
San
much.
Francisco Weekly News. Thank you. So, what we've been doing is letting people start with you're going to close the show out.
Okay.
So, let's have an opening statement. What's the first thing you'd like people to know?
Well, one of the reasons I'm running for Community College Board is because I'm a walking example of the opportunities that higher education can give to people. I went from high school dropout to PhD in less than 20 years, and I now do policy research. I spent 7 years as an adjunct professor, and I also so I bring a faculty perspective, and I've also, most importantly, I have a history of student advocacy.
Wonderful. That's the magic phrase, student advocacy. You know, many of us, one of the things that clearly qualified you as the best candidate for the College Board is this fiasco with San Francisco City College. So, what is the big issue with San Francisco City College? What is the biggest issue in education in our public college, in our college district, as you see it? And then you can tell me about the solution.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, I want to say that City College is open. It's accredited. It has excellent, high quality programs in education.
does, yes.
That has never been a question.
No, no, I should be more specific. City College is great. We were outraged when they said there wasn't enough money and they were going to interrupt accreditation. Then we saw some conflict of interest situations. So are we safe and secure now at City College?
For now.
Well, we need
I
to
think
get
we
you
have
on
a lot.
board.
Well, we have a lot of great people working in our corner.
Okay.
You know, as you know, the city attorney filed a lawsuit,
Lovely.
and that was able to keep City College open for now.
Right.
That trial is set to start on October 27th. So we'll see how it goes. We're in restoration status right now, which means that we are able to try and prove ourselves for a year. And then the problem with restoration status is that there's no appeal process.
Right, and why does City College, who has churned out, my mother graduated from City College and became an LVN, later on a 2-year RN, then she went to state and so on, and our lives changed. And we grew up in Hunters Point housing projects. All of this started at City College, and many of us have, many of us have attended City College or on our way to a traditional college or on our way to graduate college. And so I don't understand why they have to prove it.
Well, only because the accreditation agency. So originally what happened 2 years ago was that every 6 years the accrediting agency examines every school, every university, every institution of higher education. And there's nothing wrong with that. I actually agree that we should have some kind of standards and we have to adhere to that and criteria. So they came in 2006 and they gave a number of recommendations, and then they came in 2012 and they gave a number of the same recommendations as well as additional recommendations. So between 2006 and 2012, there were a number of recommendations that were just not addressed. And those had mostly to do with governance issues, financial solvency issues, governance structure, things like that. And frankly, City College in the last 2 years has addressed almost 100% of all of the issues. The ones that they haven't addressed are only because they're time sensitive and they can't address them quite yet. Things like things that have deadlines, later on. So, it's doing really well, and we just need to get really good, strong, independent, pragmatic people on the board, and that way we can have the elected board reinstated sooner rather than later.
Well, that's the solution right there. Good, steady, pragmatic people that have common sense and sound judgment.
Exactly.
Well, I know that goes without saying. Amy, I know that goes without saying. Now, let me ask you, why did you decide to run for the college board?
Well, originally, like I said, the opportunities that I had from education were just incredible. I mean, like I said, I went from high school dropout to PhD.
Right.
And
So was I, a high school dropout.
Yeah, and
Went back to
community
city.
colleges
Yes.
are just really the entryway for
Yes.
education for so many people. So that's why I ran to begin with.
Okay.
And then I decided to run again, for this 2-year seat, because for one thing, I lost that seat by only about 500 votes.
Okay.
So I thought, maybe I should run again. But then
Right.
I really, after talking with a lot of people, I came to the conclusion that if really strong people are elected, we have a better chance of getting the elected board reinstated sooner rather than later. So that was really my deciding factor. I really feel like I'm one of the leaders. I'm one of the strongest candidates, and
Yes, you are.
if I get in there, then I can help get the elected board reinstated and move City College forward.
Yeah, you're the best candidate. That's why you're here.
Thank you.
Yes, you're the best candidate. And going forward, that is certainly what we want. Now, what are some of the things that you've done? What would you like to share with us?
Well, I think, one of my goals for City College is to really focus on the institution as a whole. Meaning that, I want to focus on the institution as a higher education institution, as opposed to one program here or a program there, or accreditation now, or, what's going on right now, this second.
Right there.
Okay. Rather than focus on what's going on right now, I want to focus on the long term, the longevity of the institution, financial solvency long term, governance structures long term. I think we really need to focus on that. So those are the things that I'd like to do, and included with that are things like create apprenticeships.
We used to have those.
Yeah, and we need to have them again.
Yes.
And the other thing I think we really need is a strong alumni group. We have, I can't remember the statistic offhand, but it's something like 1 in 7 or 1 in 8 people in San Francisco have been affected by City College somehow. That's
right.
a huge resource out in the community
That's
that
right.
we're not tapping into.
My husband was excuse me for interrupting you. My husband, Samuel Smith II, was the president of the first Black Student Union at San Francisco City College, and he played ball there. And so when you speak about a strong alumni.
And has anyone ever reached out to him
No.
and said, hey, can you mentor one of our students? Can you provide an internship to one of our students? Can you provide an apprenticeship
or
to
how
one of our
can
students?
you help?
How can you help? Yeah.
Because he'll write a check if he doesn't have time.
Right.
But that is an excellent idea. I'm so glad to hear it. So please continue.
Well, that's really what I was just going to say. We need to create a resource for students, and what better resource is there than the people who went there? And there's so many in San Francisco. We have such amazing programs. We have the culinary arts program, the automotive program, and the nursing program. I mean, there's just so many things, and I really want to make San Francisco City College a model again for what community colleges can be. People talk about how we can't be everything to everyone. And I agree with that. We can't be everything to everyone, but I do think we can be many things to many people, and that's what I want to focus on.
That is great. I'm going to write that down. I can use that. Many things to many people. So, who are some of the people that you've spoken with that are supporting you?
Well,
that
I'm
you'd like to share
supported
with
by a whole host of folks. But
I was gonna
first
say,
and
you can't
foremost,
list them all,
this,
but
the San Francisco Democratic Party. I'm
Okay,
endorsed by
wonderful.
them.
Right.
As far as organizations, the Alice B. Toklas Club, the FDR Democratic Club, West Side Chinese Democratic Club, SFWPC, a number of women. I've been a leader in the women's community for a long time, so most of the women's organizations.
Wonderful.
As far as
Supervisor Malia Cohen.
Supervisor Malia Cohen,
Yes.
Supervisor London Breed, Supervisor Scott Weiner, Supervisor Jane Kim,
Wonderful.
Mark Leno, Phil
Wonderful.
Ting, Fiona Ma, yeah, a number of people.
Great.
Yes.
And the reason I asked that question is, as we know, one person cannot do it alone. Collaboration, unity,
Yeah.
agreeing to disagree, and keeping the common good. So that you really answered that question. That is so important, and it is so. All the names of the people that I read that supported you, and the names, and I read the names that you just mentioned, but I want you to share with the viewing audience, because a lot of our audience, there's a certain segment of our audience that doesn't read.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not on television, they don't get it.
Right.
And that's okay, because
Yeah.
it is what it is. So, like you said, we can be many things to many people.
Yes.
And that's what we pretty much like to do here at San Francisco Weekly News. We are so delighted that you had the time, Dr. Amy Bacharach.
Thank you so much
candidate
for having
College
me.
School Board. Now, I want to ask you, what do you think what difference in education, or what contributions, let me ask this, what contributions will you make to the College Board, in addition to what you stated already?
Well, I think most importantly, I want to be a unifying voice. I think one of the biggest problems with City College in the past that has been mentioned by the accrediting agency and a number of other individuals is that there was so much dysfunction on the board and among all the stakeholder groups. I have a history of being a unifying voice in pretty contentious stakeholder groups. I work my
Okay.
day job. I work for the courts, so I have a history of bringing together judges and defense attorneys and prosecutors and probation officers and
Collaboration.
collaboration, unification, compromise. And I think that
Good.
that's possible. I really think
Yes.
that that's possible, and I think that's what we should be striving for.
The compromise is essential.
Yes.
I want to thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being one of the best candidates and having the time to come on this show, San Francisco Weekly News Best Candidate Night. We could not get, I believe I voted for you, and I think were there two others?
Well, for my seat, it's only one seat.
That's right. So
and
there
then-
was one
yes.
vote. So that was easy. So because I voted early, I voted like 2 weeks ago.
Good for you.
Almost, as soon as the ballot came out.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you very much for appearing on the show. We expect to see you on the College Board. Vote for Dr. Amy Bacharach for San Francisco Community College Board.
Back Bacharach.
Back Bacharach. Back Bacharach. All right.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
having
so
me.
much. Well, folks, we're wrapping up tonight's San Francisco Best Candidates Night. In turn, with regard to the College Board District, very easy decision. Dr. Amy Bacharach, Bacharach for the College School Board. Shaman Walton for San Francisco School District. Of course, re-elect Supervisor Malia Cohen. These next 4 years, she has the collaboration, the experience, all the candidates that appeared on Best Candidate Night. That's what made them Best Candidate Night. That's why they qualified to appear. So we want to thank you very much. Don't forget to vote.